and I was fascinated. I had to read the agreement in different ways, not only like literary reading, but understanding it. And what I started seeing is that the agreement is quite magnificent, because what is different from other peace agreements is that this is not a ceasefire treaty. This is way far from being that. Like, the agreement divides in 6 main points. Only one of these points is the ceasefire. The other points are focused on the rural regions, on how to prevent this from occurring again, and that's what I think is amazing about this agreement. For example, I'm going to tell you a little bit about these 6 points. The first one is the rural integral reform, which is rural development, and it's focused with climate change, environmental protection, but rural reform. The second one is political participation. The third one is the end of conflict. So you can see that part as the ceasefire. It is much more complex than a ceasefire, but it's like the idea there. The fourth point is the drug conflict, which is very important here because it's the source, the economic source of this violence. So it has to be part in there. The fifth point are the victims. So as I was telling you, and that was what impressed me a lot, this agreement is based on forgiveness. It's the most important part of this. And forgiveness is not an easy thing. This conflict has been for more than 60 years in our country. So the amount of dead people due to the conflict is huge. And people, like, you must convince people that please forgive or we won't get anywhere. So there's a big part here for victims, where FARC have to accept what they did, where people want to hear what happened. They don't want to judge. They just want to see, where is my mom? Where is she buried? Is she still alive? When did you kill her? Why did you kill her? That's a very important part for victims. And the sixth part is the monitoring and verification of all this agreement. So, but what I want to highlight about this maybe on a personal opinion, I think the number one, the rural development part of this agreement is amazing, because what it tries to do is like refocus all the rural way of seeing the country. We have a lot of people on rural regions are way poorer than people on urban regions, and they are usually forgotten. So this part looks like to change that, and so prevent from a new group to appearing, because that will happen if we don't fix that part. And just like to conclude, there is one thing that I'm worried about this agreement, about the implementation of the agreement, is that initially when the agreement was shown to the public, there was a very big part about land redistribution, like land property redistribution. Land property in Colombia is very bad distributed, and that's the source of some of the most of rural inequality. Unfortunately, that land is in hands of important people, and nobody wants to give their land. So that ended up not being on the peace agreement, or kind of is, but not as strong as initially, and is not being implemented. Like, that part have been left behind, and what it worries me is that it can make the problem resurge in some time. But in general, I think I invite people to read. Not the agreement is 2,000 pages long, but there are summaries that you can read and see why it was a so interesting agreement.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Root of Conflict. Marina Milaszewska and Manuel Bustamante were your interviewers. Thank you to Yi Ning Wong and Aishwarya Raje for editing this episode. Be sure to subscribe to Root of Conflict wherever you get your podcasts. For more information on the work underway at the Pearson Institute, please visit thepearsoninstitute.org and follow them on Twitter